I get it, you scroll through a sea of glossy images, the marketing copy promises cinematic immersion, and suddenly you're staring at a massive screen that looks gorgeous on paper but feels like a disappointment when you actually sit down to play. I've been there, and that's why I'm doing this deep dive before you click add to cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The goal here is to spare you the buyer's remorse that comes from buying something that looks perfect online but ends up being a mismatch for your desk, your GPU, or even the way you actually game. First off, let's talk about the kind of setup this monitor is designed for. The ASUS ROG Swift PG349Q is a 34-inch curved panel with an 1800R curvature that tries to wrap the image around your field of view. It's built for people who want that window to another world feeling without the bezel clutter of a dual monitor rig. The curve does a decent job of reducing edge distortion, which becomes noticeable when you're piloting a fighter jet or racing through a cityscape. If you've spent hours on a flat 27-inch 1440p screen and felt the need to stretch your peripheral vision, you'll immediately notice the difference in how the world feels wider and more natural. Now, the big selling point that most listings shout about is NVIDIA GSYNC. In practice, that means the monitor's internal processor matches its refresh rate to whatever frame rate your GPU is pushing, eliminating tearing and stutter. I tested it with a RTX 3080 running titles that swing wildly between 80 and 140 frames per second. The experience was buttery, the on-screen action never jumped or hiccuped, even when the frame rate dipped. That smoothness is a genuine advantage for fast-paced shooters where every millisecond counts. If you're playing slower, more cinematic games, you'll still appreciate the fluid motion, but the practical impact is a bit less pronounced. One of the things people often overlook is the monitor's ergonomics. The stand offers tilt, swivel, and height adjustments that feel solid and not wobbly. You can raise the screen to eye level, tilt it back for a more relaxed viewing angle, or swivel it to accommodate a side-by-side desk layout. This flexibility is a hidden value add because a poorly positioned monitor can cause neck strain after a few hours, and the ROG Swift's range of motion helps you dial in the sweet spot without needing a separate mount. Eye comfort is another claim that ASUS pushes heavily, and it actually matters. The panel uses TÜV-certified flicker-free backlighting and a low blue light mode called I Care. When I toggled the low blue setting during a 4-hour marathon of Elden Ring, the screen's warmth shifted subtly, reducing eye fatigue without making colors look washed out. For anyone who spends long evenings in front of the display, that feature isn't just marketing fluff, it's a tangible benefit. The Aura Sync RGB lighting is a nice visual touch, especially if you already have a RO-themed setup. The lighting runs along the back edge and can be synchronized with other ASUS components, creating a cohesive ambience. It's not a game-changing feature, but if you enjoy a little aesthetic flair, it adds personality without being distracting. Let's get to the trade-offs, because no monitor is perfect. The resolution sits at 3440x1440, which is a step up from classic 1080p but not as demanding as 4K. That's a sweet spot for many, but it also means you need a fairly powerful graphics card to push the advertised 120Hz, overclocked, refresh rate in modern AAA titles. If you're still on a GTX 1660 or a comparable AMD card, you'll likely be capped at 6070 Hz in the latest games, which defeats part of the appeal. In that case, you might be better off with a 27-inch 1440p monitor that can actually hit its native 144 Hz with your hardware. Another practical concern is desk real estate. A 34-inch ultrawide with a sturdy stand needs a sizable surface, at least a 30-inch depth and a width that can handle the curve's footprint. If your desk is a compact home office table, you'll either have to sacrifice the height adjustment or end up with a cramped feel where the monitor overhangs your workspace. I measured my desk before buying, and the monitor's base occupies roughly 12 inches of depth, any less and the tilt mechanism would feel constrained. HDR performance is modest. The panel supports HDR10, but the peak brightness peaks around 300 nits, which is fine for bright rooms but doesn't deliver the punch you'd see on a premium HDR display that reaches 600 plus nits. In bright outdoor scenes, the highlights can feel a bit flat. If HDR is a major part of your buying criteria, you might want to look at a monitor that explicitly markets higher peak brightness. So, who should consider the ROG Swift PG349Q? If you're a competitive or enthusiast gamer with a current-gen NVIDIA GPU, enjoy immersive, fast-paced titles, and have a desk that can accommodate a 34-inch curve, this monitor aligns well with your needs. It also makes sense for content creators who benefit from extra horizontal